Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, watchers from all around the world, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you here to the first day of the Canadian Ultimate Championships Division 1. The regionals final stage was yesterday. We are left with the best of the best from the east and middle of Canada. It is my distinct pleasure to be Lorcan Murray. I am joined by the irreparably fantastic Rebecca Thompson. How are you feeling today, Rebecca?
Feeling amazing and ready for what's going to be a very good game here. Both these teams coming off first round wins as well. Guelph pretty handily over Waterloo, winning that one 15-7. And Dalhousie, the surprise of the morning, beating the number 1 seed Toronto on universe points. So this one is going to be a good game.
That's a huge pull coming out of the hands of Ibn Tabay, one of the rookies on this D-line. A lot of rookies on the Dalhousie D-line as immediately a deep shot becomes available, and the Griffins send it, taking flight early in this game. A beautiful shot to the end zone, right collected on the doorstep by Keenan. Looking around for options and eventually gets one in the form of a streaking Kinley Gee. And that was a fantastic connection between the two AUDL Ottawa All-Stars.
Yeah, Kinley G, a very good cutter in movement upfield. He plays in the handler roles, but as soon as he gets close to that end zone, you're going to look for him going up the line all day long, and immediately there as well, Keenan, the captain, going deep. Guelph looking flawless right at the start of this game.
And those kind of probing deep shots are exactly what we wanted to see coming out of it. Fearlessness immediately, recognizing the separation and the space downfield, isolating the cutter. Brilliant stuff from the Griffins, who are looking very composed based off their morning performance.
Yeah, they're definitely looking in control and looking relaxed, upbeat. You can see them smiling and having fun on the sidelines as well, and that's great to see. Early in the morning, still here a little bit, and nice and cold too, so nice
brisk.
To stay. It is brisk, so good to stay relaxed.
Wake you up anyway. And now let's have a quick look at the Dalhousie O-line. The O-line behind which, I believe anyway, they were certainly able to get past the reigning champions Toronto in a nail-biting universe point opening game. Some absolutely fantastic players out there on that O-line, competent and confident. So what they were able to do is a lot of unders, a lot of moving the disc around quickly, using the mismatches when they become available. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it against a very athletic Griffin defense. So they go immediately, they center to Too Good, the aptly named leader of this team. And the cup immediately put on them to try and limit their effectiveness, but that plays slightly into their hands as Wedge comes forward. Fantastic player. Dalhousie were not able to get their women to this tournament. They're focusing on getting them here next year. However, they knew the talents of Wedge was something that they just couldn't leave at home. Nice hammer over the top. Expansive play right now from Dalhousie. It all seems to be happening between the same three players. Snow getting involved. Sends it out to the sideline. He sees Too Good immediately in front of him, and they are already knocking on the door to respond in kind. And a beautiful hammer over the top, but there's going to be competition and battled for. Excellent defensive effort coming across. That's Noah Van Duzer.
Van Duzer just coming down one fingertip to that disc between coverage there. Two receivers in that space. Does a great job to keep that one clean too.
So now we see Campbell Armstrong picks up the disc, one of 3 brothers and a cousin on this team. The youngest of the Armstrongs, and by the admission of some of the players on this Guelph side, probably going to be the best of them, which, if you know anything about his older brothers, is quite the statement to make, as there he somewhat flummoxed throws the disc into empty space and it just falls to the ground near Wedge, as Too Good takes his time before picking it up. Surveys the scene. They try to go for an isolation in the front of the end zone. Nice cutting, but there's the break. It was great initial defense, but there's only so much you can do. Luke Foster is going to get himself, Samuel Cameron is going to get himself a little bit of space, and Too Good's going to hit it.
Yeah, Cooper Too Good there. Absolutely the heart and soul of this Dal offense as well. You see the way he's going every other pass, multiple occasions there, getting it to the back, into the middle of the field there by the end zone. Easy shot to the break side for that player.
What you do have to worry about, though, that hammer he took initially, perhaps a little bit of jitters, perhaps a little bit of stiffness in the fingers as he was warming up, because it floated far more than he intended to, allowing for the D to come across. So, 1-1, 2 offensive holds. One was flawless, the other one made up for it with some nice defensive pressure. So it stays close. And that is something that we were able to see from Dalhousie in their opening game as well. There were a number of times where they did cough up possession on that O-line, but they were able to earn it back in what was an incredibly tight game, never letting Toronto build a lead or get away from them.
It's good to be able to trust your O-line that when they do turn it over, they have the capabilities to grind it out and get that back on defense. You always want to fight for every disc, and we got a little bit of wind picking up right now, not too much, but if that does become a factor later on, having an O-line with that capability is definitely going to be an advantage.
There's the breeze ever so gently coming from the camera side across the pitch laterally. If you are perhaps able to see some flags in the background. The provinces of Canada flapping proudly in the morning sun. As now, here come Guelph. Looking to seem as composed as they were earlier. Connor Armstrong, 2016 MVP of Canadian Ultimate, puts out a beautiful pass around. Guelph taking their time. Guy looking for Armstrong, eventually able to get it to him, and that's why he's known as the quickness. Plays it out, lovely to the sideline. Guelph not forcing anything, just taking their time, although that one a little bit far away, and it just seems to ever so slightly skim past Armstrong's outstretched hand, and Dalhousie with a bit of a gift there.
I think Armstrong thought he had that one as well, didn't need to make a bid for it. Definitely has the bids to get to that disc, so I think next time we'll see him make more certain that he gets that catch.
So Turner picks up the disc. And that's a floaty one to space. Not a lot of room, and Armstrong able to, or sorry, that's not Armstrong, that is Kimmerer coming across and getting the D. One of the most improved players from last year for this Guelph side. Really took a lot of strides over the past year in his play. Showing it off there, great heads-up block.
Yeah, Kimmerer won with a lot of speed, and we're going to see him really use that throughout the course of this game.
So now Connor Armstrong plays with the Toronto Rush in the AUDL. Gets it to Guy, centers it to the middle. And Keenan puts that out to the sideline. Guelph just taking their time. Keenan gets it back. Has a bit of a deep opportunity ahead of him. Decides against it. No one moving into that open side immediately. Forced to go back into the middle of the pitch. Guy waits for him. Can't get it to Armstrong. Currently a man on an island. But eventually able to get it down the line. Chambers puts that one beautifully, and Armstrong doesn't have a defender near him, and that is all about the throw.
Just left in yards of space in the end zone there. You can't leave any of these Guelph players deep without coverage at this point. The throws and the depth on this team, any player is going to put up that huck.
That's just one of the reasons why Guelph are so dangerous. They have lethal throwers across their roster. And they will spread that disc all across the pitch. So, Dalhousie, they got a shot, they weren't able to capitalize. Maybe they tried to force a little bit. Did it seem a little rushed to you?
A little bit. I think just throwing into some tight spaces, maybe coming down with some of those in the previous game with some of the athleticism. Just need to adjust to the fact that Guelph might be a little bit more matched on defense in this one.
Speaking to Luke Martelli, the coach of Dalhousie, before the game, they're saying the D-line athleticism is something that really gives them buoyancy when they're trying to cross these choppy waters of the Saturday morning games. But it's a double-edged sword. When you rely on that youth and exuberance like they do with their rookies on the D-line, you do lead to those kind of misgivings and lack of composure on the offensive end.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see now their very talented O-line back on the field. Like you said, definitely a unit that helped carry them over Toronto. So looking for a good response now.
As they get it to Too Good in the middle of the pitch. Lots of separation. Lots of space thanks to the sideline stack. And there's the deep shot available. Didn't quite come out how he liked it, but it gets to the target in the end. They're just about able to get there. That's Becker. Pops it back. Snow, one of the captains of this side with Too Good. As now he waits. Too Good bashing his way to get free on the open side in the front corner. And Snow makes the second cut for him and gets the happiness for the score, 2-2.
Yeah, Snow, another captain on this team, working very well with Too Good there. We're seeing their chemistry start to come out early in this game. Like you said, tying it up here at 2-2. Guelph is going to have to find a way to shut down Too Good if they're going to want to break them down in this game, I think.
How?
Well,
I watched that last game. How?
I think at this point we've seen them put on the zone once or twice. This time they came down in that person-to-person defense. They've got to find a player who can match the athleticism that Too Good has. Maybe putting somebody like Chris Kimmerer with the speed he's got on him, or putting on that zone with a man-on-man mark on Too Good could be another way that they take him out of this one.
I like that idea of maybe a zone with an assassin, but the kind of problem when you play an assassin is the gaps get ever so slightly bigger, and Molly Wedge is the exact kind of player who's able to just take advantage of those gaps. In the previous game, Toronto kept trying to poach off her to gain a defensive advantage downfield, and every single time she exploited the gaps and was able to utilize it brilliantly. So you cannot nap on her. However, you've got to do something to try and slow him down. For now, it is Dalhousie looking for a way to get the disc off of the Griffins. Starting on defense means they want to get that break in the first half. As this disc gently floats down to the waiting Christopher Chambers, known for his grabs, helping lead the offense as a handler this time round. Armstrong eases that one to Guy. On the sideline, he thinks about the deep shot, smiles and sends it back. So G puts that one out in front of Armstrong, and again, it's just a little bit too close to the ground. Perhaps he could have got there if he bid, but at the same time, those throws could be a little easier for the talismanic leader of this side.
And that's the second time we've seen Armstrong not go for the bid on one of those shots.
Oh, but he snatches that one away from the laying out form of Casper McCauley. And now you start to see them really go down the pitch with pace. Brilliant exploitation of the momentary lapse by Dalhousie's defense. And the Griffins find themselves knocking on the door immediately. G. There's a little bit of a stumble. A little bit of a fumble, but they remain secure in possession as the stall count encroaches towards 10. A little bit of discussion. How quickly the Griffins were able to sail from their own end zone to the Dalhousie one. 2 passes.
It's definitely one of the quickest transition offense we've seen so far in this tournament between yesterday and today.
As there's the smooth pass to Armstrong, although there seems to be a little bit of discussion that he physically pushed off in order to get that separation. And you can see a little bit of conversation. McCauley and Armstrong.
I think McCauley there thinks that he had his feet planted, meaning that if Armstrong did use the contact to go around him, that is a call on Armstrong. However, if he was moving his feet at the time of the call, then it is within Armstrong's right to go around him and use a little bit of contact.
And that's always so difficult as well. I mean, when aren't you moving on defense? If both players are moving, then it's a defensive foul, but at times like this, early discussion. I like calls at the start of a game. I like calls in the first few points because to me that's established as a denominator between each team's interpretation of the rules and the spirit, and then from that you can have a fair game. It's when the calls are kind of let go in the start of the game and then they start getting called in the latter halves and you think that's bad spirit. If you're going to call it, you have to call it all game. If you let it go in the first half, you cannot call it in the second half.
Especially if it's a tight, close, intense game right at the end.
Which is so frequently what you see happening with certain contact calls, with travel calls and things like that. So right now they're establishing what they consider to be fair parameters of physical contact. And we go again. Quite the task for McCauley to try and contain Armstrong. Shoulders shake and he goes to the opposite side and G feeds him. For a hungry side today, the Griffins have come to win, showing off just why they're so difficult to stop in the end zone.
G and Armstrong, so much chemistry between the two as well. You saw as soon as they reset on that play, just a quick piece of eye contact between the two, knew exactly what they were going to do.
I'm a huge fan of that shoulder fake as well. Throw the one shoulder, go the opposite way. And something that Guelph are clearly more than happy to do is just trust an isolated color at the front of the stack and back whoever has the disc in the hand to get in the break off.
Guelph definitely always doing a good job of running through their systems, a very disciplined team as well. So like you said, good to see them using that end zone stack very efficiently. And I think at this point, Dal is going to have to find a way to maybe play some better, tighter end zone defense on them as well. We've seen them quite wide open down in that end. So maybe putting on a clamp on the stack or something else a little bit tighter to stop them from getting to that break side.
From my understanding generally of USAU rules is a little bit of contact in that situation, a little bit of physical guidance, kind of like blinkers on a horse, the way you angle your body defensively to push them out of the end zone. Because in that instance, the fake doesn't work if you're physically standing there. So if you're going to fake into my body, I don't have to move. Whereas that time with the fake, the slight step, and all of a sudden that's all the space they need. As here comes a big pull, rocketing out of the arms of Noah Van Duzer. He already has 1 block to his name in this game. As that one is going out for a brick. Too Good taking his time. And here's an interesting look from Dal. A split stack. You can see their structure seems to be all about trying to isolate a space. Be interesting to see in what way they attack it, as the Griffins maintain their zone. And quickly Dal just readjust, fantastically finding the gaps. A little bit of play now, Stephen Snow. His elongated figure is something we will see all across this pitch today. Puts back to Too Good. And Wedge, aptly named as she so frequently finds those gaps and helps force open space inside opposing zones. As Too Good has 2 handlers behind him. Goes with the scuba that just about works out to Snow, but right now not enough movement to really pull the cup apart. They're forced to continue to go around it. As Too Good now strikes through, brilliantly so. Waiting there was Cameron. He allows the zone to arrive before hitting Too Good again. Wedge. And tries to get it around, but an authoritative hand block. Calvin Rorda slaps that one.
Rorda read that the entire way through, ready for that block as Wedge was turning around to that break side.
As that one goes up, but unfortunately just outside of the outstretched hands of Van Duzer, asking slightly too much. And again, the Guelph D-line can't cash in.
Yeah, I think Guelph really needs to stay calm when they get this turn on defense. One thing Dow's doing really well on this O-line is their patience and moving the disc up the field only when there's a 100% shot. So Guelph has got to find a way to readjust that and stay calm.
And there's Wedge, this time opting for the hammer over the top, and another hammer over the top. This is what we love to see. Snow can't get it back in the middle. He has Too Good immediately in front of him. Turns it into a little game of Luke Skywalker. Excellent isolation against the zone, and beautifully playing that one down as the wings have been pulled too far back. So Dal doing a good job of utilizing the space, taking their time. You can see the Griffins have reversed to match defense. Wedge gets that immediately down the line to Cameron, and he puts a floaty one up to the end zone, but with Snow underneath it, you gotta think he comes down. Little bit of contact. An understandable call as Foster may have clipped him.
Yeah, hard to see from here. Of course, hear some of the players talking from the sideline about who had best perspective on that one. You definitely have to leave the call to the 2 people involved in it on the field. And it did seem like Snow did try to go up for a jump. Maybe he was stopped. Whether it affected the outcome, I'm not quite sure at this point, but we'll see what the resolution is here.
And the observers seem to have ruled turnover. So, a little bit surprising, but we can only see so much from up here. And this is why you have to leave it to the people on the pitch and the men in orange. As now here come the Griffins with another chance for a break. They've squandered 2 so far. Campbell Armstrong puts it down the line. The deep shot is looked off by Hayter initially. He sees Armstrong, tries to get it to him, can't quite as it drops to the ground. And a little bit of uncertainty. It's execution error after execution error.
Yeah, definitely looks like Guelph their own worst enemy on these defensive points when they're getting it back, just rushing it or maybe not making the best decisions.
And there's a fantastic shot to the end zone. Brilliant down the line cut and excellently placed by Too Good. Taken in for the score. Dalhousie, after looking a little bit shaky, are able to punch it in.
I think Dal on that one a little bit lucky to get the disc back twice as well in order to get their offensive hold. They were doing a really good job on offense at first, but Guelph managing to get 2 defensive turns, definitely not going to be able to use that the entire time. So we'll see now if Dal can find a way to break down this Guelph offense. Definitely these 2 teams made up of very strong offensive units here.
And that was always going to be the interesting factor as we came into it. We know both of the O-lines are very good. How good can the defenses be? We've seen turns gained by the Griffins, but they're unable to cash them in. We've seen a similar enough effect on the side for Dalhousie as well. I believe they've had 2 opportunities, both times again execution errors. So we know the offenses are going to be good. It's the D-line offense that really seems like it's going to define this game.
Yeah, the team who can clean it up the first time is absolutely going to be the one who pulls it up here. Pulls it up.
So, a big pull, hurtling, out of the hands of Tabay. As you can see him rotating his shoulder cuffs, he goes down the pitch. Wonder how many more of those he's got in him. That one seems to land just out of bounds, so it's going to be a brick. Armstrong in a power position, exactly where you don't want him. 2016 MVP of Canada.
In the junior division.
In the junior division. I was asking them about that. I was like, of all of Canada and he's still in college? He goes, no, it's junior division. Okay, that makes much more sense. As you can see, a nice cut downfield. That's some hard working by Bolan Moss, but unfortunately he can't corral the disc in the end of it.
Bolan Moss taking a last couple years off of Ultimate, did play for the U20 Team Canada back in 2016, took a break, but maybe just a little bit of nerves on that one, a little bit of rust.
As you see Turner tries to get it into the middle, but again, that's a critical error. Tabay thinking about the throw, and there's only one thought for that throw before it's sent. But a huge defensive effort by Tabay, and that is how you make up for mistakes.
Absolutely. You always want to see your teammates fighting for every disc. If you do make a mistake, you go back and you get it on defense just like that.
Brilliant recovery. Never let his head drop. Even literally in that sense, and that would have been a score straight away as Turner. Looking for options, forced to go back to the dump again. Not a lot of downfield separation. Starting to look a little bit clogged. Finally they get something in the form of an undercutting player, but they can't get it to him. So, G just about able to get that across to Keenan. He plays that well down the line. Chambers says no to G, has Campbell in front of him, hits him, continues to move himself. Armstrong decides against it. Now he's able to get it to Keenan. And here we can see just the difference in the two offenses, the clarity when the Griffins have the disc. G, there's a race to the front end zone cone, but they can't win it. As the Stolkan starts to climb a little bit higher. Bear in mind that it is the closer sideline of those two sidelines is the actual one. Two white lines very near to each other. The closer one to the camera is the actual sideline. So G is not on the sideline right now. Which in my mind kind of opens up that around backhand just a little bit more. As you see, he eventually gets it to Armstrong. Sends it back to G with plenty of float, so they've got lots of time to set themselves up. Keenan tries to get free and does so brilliantly in the end zone, breaking the ankles of Grant McDonald in the process.
It's one thing I really like about the Guelph offense. Connor Armstrong, Kinley G there, so patient and easily swinging it across the field. Armstrong always hanging out in that reset space, not usually going up line, but he just creates enough space for himself to then have the immediate swing. G following his throw, moving and going, and that is working so well for them at this end zone.
I also really like Keenan's ability to get free in tight spaces, or how aggressive he is with his cuts as well. Like some people you see, they're cutting, they're kind of running around the pitch looking for space. And then there's other people who cut because they want the disc. They cut far more aggressively. And that's the kind of movement that he provides his team with.
It allows your thrower to know with absolute certainty where you're going as well. No confusion on this field here today.
So 4-3 to Guelph. And looking quite comfortable doing so.
Be interesting to see if we can get something different on defense here for Guelph as well. They've been trying that zone look, and Dal able to beat it a lot with the over-the-top shots here too. So it'll be interesting to see if they come down with that same zone look, maybe looking to put some taller people in the cup, stop some of those over-top shots.
That's something that they're going to have to try and do. The likes of Malcolm Elliott, who's been throwing hammers all game long. As he just watches that one sail over his head. And that's another brick.
Van Duzer going for that big inside-out pull here as well. He's trying to land it on the far side, far back corner of the end zone. But the wind enough coming from just behind us here is going to pick it up and sail it far the other way. So maybe just need to readjust that edge on his next pull.
Quick shout out to Waterloo, who threw that disc to Too Good after it went onto their pitch, and Too Good caught it between his legs behind his back. I thought that was quite impressive. And he goes for a hammer immediately, but there's a bit too much float on that one. Fantastic defensive presence by Van Duzer. And he has been very good at that all game long. It's retaining possession where they struggle. A huge effort from Lucas Carice, showing off for the fans who are currently cheering him on from the sideline, but unfortunately gets ground stripped. As now we see Elliott, front of the end zone. Who else but Snow moves for him straight away. And then Too Good, the two captains, one after the other. Eventually he has to go back into the middle. Waiting for him there, Cameron. And Snow, who just never stops moving. So difficult to contain. That is a tall order. Michael Fraser, unfortunately, tasked with it on that point.
Like you said there, Guelph, their main problem, retaining possession when they do get the turnover. Not the best decision there from Cooper Toogood right at the start of that point. Opted straight for a huge hammer over the top. Van Duzer's going to be reading plays like that all day long, so they've got to keep it out of those floaty 50-50 opportunities here if they want to break down this Guelph defensive unit. But Guelph, on the other hand, keep giving it back to them, just gifting them opportunities to get the hold again.
That's actually the second time that Van Duzer's made a fantastic athletic play on a floaty disc, only for the immediate throw of the D-line offense to be a turnover and give up short field. Huck and pin. Inadvertent, but still. You got me saying huck and pin. The Canadian, it's just coming into me now.
Canadian strategy will slowly filter over.
I'm going to start permeating my very being. Start saying sorry. An A. Everything becomes a question. As now. Shoulder, still intact for now. Even to Bay. Sizes up and gets ready for a pull. Now we'll get to see this young, athletic D-line from Guelph take their time and set up, as that is another brick. Such a fundamental skill, but something that a lot of teams really lack an authoritative figure for. That's where the defense starts, as now Armstrong finds himself in power position. And he goes deep immediately. G's burning off after it. Collects it directly in front of the end zone. And then Keenan just separates himself, and another little shimmy shake, and he's gone.
That's the exact same combination we saw on the last point here. Connor Armstrong to Kinley G to Patrick Keenan in the end zone. Those three working so well together and no problems, making it look effortless there right off the play. I think that was a pull play called on the line, and it's always a good confidence booster for your offensive unit. Couple turns on the last one, come out here, execute a play, clean point.
Now, coming from outside of the country, one of the only real ways, or one of the most noticeable things about Canadian Ultimate has always been Toronto GOAT. And they're quite renowned for their pull plays. Are pull plays a very popular thing amongst the strategies of Canadian Ultimate teams on the East Coast?
I think for the most part, most teams will have a couple in their arsenal as a great way to just initiate the flow off of the pull. And if you can execute it perfectly like that, it does give your team the confidence and a little bit of excitement and energy knowing that you're able to execute the systems that you were taught in practice. But definitely a common thing. I know my teams have always had several pull plays in our arsenal, and they're very fun to do.
I always found my experience with pull plays was if it didn't work initially, panic can set in as teams try to scramble to set up their dumps, but executed to perfection in that instance. So, still on serve, no breaks yet. The wind gently caressing, now slightly from left to right on our feed, but still in no real way exerting any influence on the game. As that pull goes high, up, it's gone past one pole. Will it get back in? And it does! And there we go. That's what we've been waiting for all game long. That's one of the more exciting things to happen to me today. Too good. Under pressure almost immediately. Eventually he's able to get it out to Elliott. And Elliott doesn't go for a hammer. I mean, I can't say I'm not disappointed. As now Becker searches for options against a very aggressive force from the young Armstrong brother. Gets it back to Wedge. There's a call of a violation. Becker and Wedge both play together on Anchor out of Halifax. They're playing at the World Championships. I had the pleasure of calling their game against Marvelous DC, the team coming out of, well, kind of New Zealand in general, ever so slightly. I believe Wellington, but it's nice to see them back out on the pitch. As Becker gets that one to Snow. but nothing really immediately happening in the open side. A lot of juking and jiving, and eventually Elliott arrives. Now Cameron thinks about sending it, decides against it. Now he's got Wedge. She looks for separation, can't get it. Forced to go back to Becker. Excellent recovery, and he keeps the movement going with a nice inside break. So now Elliott. CUUC's doing everything he can, and that was always going to be a difficult squeeze. And they really felt the pressure on that one. Excellent defense.
See if Guelph making a readjustment here. They've put Connor Armstrong over to this defensive line, a strong offensive handler. We'll see if that can pay off for them to keep the disc in their possession this time.
You see Kieran Buckley immediately going deep, recognizing the mismatch as Wedge was on him, but that time there's a huge shot going up. There was a lot of players down there, and if there'd been more float, you have to think Elliott would have been able to come in and try and influence the decision.
Yeah, I think on this one, though, a better decision anyways from this Guelph defensive unit. Did have the receiver going, needed a little bit more love on that disc, but like you said, could have had the defensive pressure if there was.
So now Elliott tries to get it to Too Good, but he is being absolutely shut down by Armstrong. Bit of conversation about the contact on that, though.
I do like this readjustment from the Guelph line to move Connor Armstrong over to the D-line, try and get an important break here.
Guelph have a numbers advantage over Dalhousie. Dalhousie have, I believe, 15 players with one who's not quite playing, so basically 14, 7 on D, 7 on O. Upon occasion, an O-line may switch over to the D-line. Guelph able to be a bit more expansive, a bit more flexible in their choice of players. As the conversation continues, they find themselves 5-4 down. Out of the two teams, I have to say, to me, Guelph are the ones who look slightly more likely to get a break, but neither teams really look likely to get a break. Neither team's defensive offense has held the disc for longer than 2 or 3 passes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they need to just take a big, deep breath and swing the disc, focus on getting some possession before they force their options upfield.
Huge defensive run through. Fantastic stuff by Aiden Hayter. Couldn't get the Callahan, but he'll take the block, and this is the best chance they have. If you can only get 1 or 2 passes off on the D-line, then only need 1 or 2 passes. Hayter does everything he can. He switches, he turns, and he gets free for the score.
Aiden Hayter, incredible explosive player for this Guelph team. Just needed to catch that disc to secure the Callahan on that point. Gets the run-through block. He's only been playing Ultimate for about 2 years now. Already made the U20 Team Canada team, competed at the World Championships this summer. So an incredible player with so much potential to go further in this game.
No, he looks somewhat like a silverback gorilla, barreling his way through the offensive efforts. Read the play, get across, and Too Good, after you've seen him get that break off so many times, if you're marking somebody and you're moving to the break side, you have to expect it coming. That's what he did. Excellent adjustment. And for a player who's only playing 2 years, did you say? And he is in the AUDL with the Ottawa Outlaws.
Yeah, Aiden Hayter, a high-level volleyball player all through high school. Played 1 season of high school, I believe, in his grade 12 year. Came to Guelph, made this team, and has been going up ever since.
Just on the rise. Volleyball is one of those sports that really transitions well. I find basketball, volleyball, 2 sports that you really get a lot of players coming into Ultimate, can be very effective in. Also in Ireland, we've got Gaelic football. Do you have many football players from, like, say, Canadian football or anything to make the transition over?
No, not so much. I mean, it would be a very good transition sport in terms of your hand-eye coordination, your ability to set up cuts, but we don't seem to get as many as we do with basketball, volleyball, and even soccer.
Oh, really? Soccer? Still trying to find my feet because that is the sport where I'm from. But over here, a little bit ostracized. Slightly more popular in Canada, it seems. It's probably the British influence on your culture.
I think a little bit. So I think that's a good decision there from Guelph as well. Again, the movement of Armstrong over, and you see him again. He's out on this D-line. Looks like they're putting some big faces. You got Patrick Keenan and Campbell Armstrong also over on this defensive unit. So Guelph not pulling out any chances, not playing it safe at all, and they're going for another big point here.
Would be a little bit worried about them running Connor Armstrong into the ground, but he is known as the quickness, so you have to imagine. He's not known as the stamina, in fairness. So, I mean, I don't know how much you can use him.
Yeah, time will tell to see how they readjust here. It actually looks like taking Calvin Rorda, who's been a mainstay on this defensive line, off and put Kinley G on as well. So putting their 3 main offensive players in Keenan G and Armstrong over to this D-line. Interesting move here, and we'll see if it can pay off for them.
And it was after they got a break as well, which I really like. There's the first break. So what are we going to do now? We're going to ease off a little bit? No. Now we're going to try and punish them. Like, we want to inflict some kind of depression upon them. And you can see Guelph very good at that mental warfare. That was something that was very apparent in their first game. They really know when to tighten the screws. As the disc goes up. No changes to the Dalhousie O-line. Sticking with what they know. Too good. On Armstrong, that's quite a matchup. High release backhand hook. Floating, but the adjustment is made and collected by Cameron. Excellent stuff. He's on the end zone line. Gets it to Snow. Snow says no to this sketchy pass available to him immediately. Now he's looking for dumps. Left and backhand dishes.
That throw as well read so well by the Dal offender. It looked like there was a foul called on the throw with Cooper Too Good. Not the throw he intended to put up, but it worked out anyways. And Snow, I think a travel call, has it on the end zone line.
A little bit of conversation. I think Becker was talking to Keenan, but nothing that matters for too long. That was a lovely high release backhand.
And what a way for Dal to respond with their O-line here. Having just been broken and seen that Guelph has turned around and put on a power line for their D-line as well, to be able to respond, keep it clean, keep it smooth up the field, get their hold, that's got to be good for this team. Now, desperately needing to go back and get a break, find something different on defense here.
They are 6-5 down. They've gotten a couple of turns. They have. So the defensive strategy works to an extent, but do you think now would be the time to maybe copy the move of Guelph and move the likes of maybe Snow, maybe Too Good onto the D-line for 1 or 2 points?
I think that could be a very interesting move, especially before halftime. Bring this one back tied up before Guelph can reach 8 points here.
And you can see the faith being exhibited in his young D-line by Luke Martelli as he is leaving them all out there, the original 7. You have to respect that.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got chemistry built up. You've got a small roster here as well. You want to trust the ability that your D-line and your O-line have to get the points that are needed. A lot of these guys coming out of the Halifax Junior program, the New Scotland Blues team, so some young players, but they're definitely ready. Got the fire and the drive to go and get this. So you just need some patience when they get the turn.
Of course, for some of the older players as well, they wind up playing on a Red Circus on a Halifax as well. A lot of these college players spend their summers together. As we see G sends that one immediately. There's a lot of float and Keenan is down there under it. It's going to be a battle, and it's one that he wins with aplomb, snatching that away from Brian Tan.
A great 1v1 matchup there. Saw G so much trust. Keenan was never really fully open.
No, he was not open at all.
But knowing that he's got the ability to go one-on-one, read the disc well, didn't have body position either, but goes straight up, gets his hand to that disc first, makes it look so easy.
And it was a close one as well. Like, he gets that just before Tan was going to get there. I really thought when it went up and Tan was in the perfect position, you think he's got a good look at this, and there's a bit of float, but then it floated, I think, a smidge too long. And that allowed Keenan to zero in and take the disc away. We will call that a enthusiastic amateur collection.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the decision from G, just trusting his teammate. And that's one thing that I think both teams have shown pretty well on their offensive lines. They've got a lot of trust in the ability of their players. And now, again, just the changes on defense as we see Guelph going back to their normal defensive unit here, back to the trust in what their lines are able to do.
Which is interesting, because this is the break that could get them to half. But far be it from us to question Adam O'Donnell, the coach of this Guelph side. I mean, if you're able to corral this group of boisterous young men into a cohesive unit, then you're far more skilled an organizer than I've ever been. As the big pull comes up out of the hands of Van Duzer. Such an influential defensive presence. Well, he sends that one across into the Toronto-Waterloo game.
Fortunately pulled the majority of his pulls in this game out of bounds, giving the disc a nice opportunity to go to the brick here for this Dal line, although you see them sitting up in a side stack despite the fact that Guelph has come up in a zone again.
So Elliott on the brick and immediately throws that into the awaiting leg, it seemed, of Michael Frazier. So Guelph not going to question it. Campbell Armstrong picks it up. Perhaps he could be known as the swiftness There's an awful lot of float on that one, but that is an authoritative grab by Hayter, who then pops it in for the score. Well taken by Buckley, and that is half at 8-5.
You know what? I think at this point, the ability for their normal defensive unit to come on this field, execute perfectly, a foot block right off the first throw, get it into the end zone. Guelph is going to be riding on a high going into the second half.
Almost like an instinctual foot. I kind of think that Elliott just threw it at his foot. I don't think he moved his leg. But the point is they got the block, and more importantly, they were able to get the score. It looked initially like they'd made that same mistake again. There was an awful lot of float on that disc coming out of Armstrong's hands, but Hayter is quite an impressive receiver. So at half, we will take a quick 5-minute intermission, and we will be back to you. Plenty still left to play for, as it is inches deciding this game right now. Welcome back to this broadcast of the Canadian Ultimate University Championships 2018. I am Lorcan Murray. I'm joined by Rebecca Thompson. I have to say, currently, the Griffins are 8-5 up, but they have not looked like a team that are that substantially better than Dalhousie. So what kind of adjustments do you think Dalhousie can make in this second half? It's a small gap, but it's one that they've really stretched into a considerable distance. What can Dalhousie do to shorten it again?
Well, Dalhousie has been able to get the turnovers on this Guelph team. Of course, starting out on offense here, they've been consistent on O. When they do get it back on that defensive unit, they need to stay a bit more patient with the disc, not force the options that they've been looking to. They're trying to put it into a lot of coverage often right now, and Guelph, a very athletic team, easily getting to those Ds. I think if Dal as well, if they can just find a way to stay calm, work it up the field, and get a good break coming into the second half, it could just provide them the momentum that they need to continue through. They're down 3 points. There's 40 minutes left, so plenty of time in this game for them to close the gap here.
And that pull is never going to come back in, so you've got to imagine they're not going to go for the brick, but instead take it all the way back up here. And that is a costly error.
It's the issue with trying to go around the outside of the field. If it does not come back in, it's not going to work out very well for your team. Of course, we've seen Van Duzer do that in his first game this morning and today already once, able to land it perfectly in the back end zone. But this time, a costly mistake in my opinion, as Dalhousie is going to walk it all the way up to the opposing team's brick mark.
So Elliott, disc in hand, as they try to ascertain exactly where that disc went out. The call immediately for hard defense. This is an end zone set. Let's see what Dalhousie go with. A nice little juke and turn from Cameron. Can't quite complete the move, and there's Wedge. And that's why you can't take your eyes off her for a second.
Absolutely amazing cut there by Wedge. Little shoulder fake. We've talked about it before. We love that little fake. Jukes and goes straight to the break side. Knows the ability of her thrower to get it to her on that side. And well done here by Dal. The pull obviously giving them great field position, but to come out and execute it perfectly, get their D-line back out quickly. Great job. I like it.
Lovely little connection from Elliott to Becker as well. Or sorry, to Cameron at the start of that point. And now we're starting to see some of the more experienced elements come on. Too Good on the line. Snow as well. The two captains starting to come on and take charge. And it seems like they've brought over Samuel Cameron to complete the move. I actually believe I see Hans Becker out there as well. That's another O-line player. So 4 O-line players stepping on for Dalhousie, and this is when they need to do it. So I'm very excited to see how this point goes for them.
It's exactly what you were talking about earlier in the first half. Move some of those players over a little bit like what Guelph, exactly like what Guelph did in the first half. Try to create something different and have some more confidence in those players when they do get the disc back into their hands.
So Too Good, skipping backwards, ready to lead his team as the tip of that spear tries to find a hole in this currently unblemished Guelph armor. G awaits it, the disc in the middle of the pitch, and receives it. The side stack from Guelph. Keenan working against Becker. Or sorry, working against Cameron. As you can see, Armstrong and Too Good battling down the field. Excellent coverage, forcing Armstrong to that sideline. Keenan clears the space. G tries to come back and is able to circle it around. But no cuts coming immediately. There's a little bit of bad timing. Huge bid, but unfortunately not able to get there. Schrader has to pick himself up and gets on the mark, adjusts his hat. Sorry, that wasn't Schrader. That was, in fact, McDonald. And Keenan gives it back to Armstrong. They've got them close to the sideline. Armstrong gets them out of it. Keenan in the middle of the pitch. A little bit of float, but G is there. And again, no cuts coming straight away. A little bit of miscommunication and mistiming down the field. Armstrong able to collect that one just about. And he gets it to the end zone despite the pressure. Bolin Moss stays strong and collects the disc.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of defensive pressure there from Dal, and I think Dal has to take some positives away from that they did force the pressure. They were close. That huge layout bid attempt from McDonald there, absolutely incredible. If they can continue to generate that pressure, it is more likely that turn and that break is going to come for them.
It was a lot of pressure, but you have got to commend the O-line of the Griffins. I didn't like the stagnation downfield. Weird that they would frequently get a dump off and there was no cut coming, when in the first half there would always be that continuation cut. Seemed like that time they were a bit more reluctant, so they just let the leaders take control and run the show.
Yeah, a bit uncharacteristic from what we saw in the first half, like you said. I think something that Coach Adam O'Donnell, you see him talking to his players now, is probably letting them know, don't slow down, don't get used to the fact that the resets have been working for them, so don't rely on those too heavily and stop moving upfield, because if it does break down, they need those cuts to keep coming.
So Dalhousie staying out on the line. You can still see Becker, Cameron, Too Good, Snow all returning out there. They're being joined by Elliott, Wedge. So it's a strong Dalhousie O-line. Elliott collects, middle of the pitch. Centres it to Too Good, almost at the brick mark. Ever so slightly shy of it. And Buckley. So tenacious. So dogged on the mark. Wedge. Has Too Good, pops it to him. The lefty backhand. Buckley stays strong on the mark, you love to see it. There's Wedge. I like the way that they're setting up these dump resets though. They're not really losing any yards on it.
So I think Wedge, they're calling a fast count on the mark, and unfortunately, Beckley, they're not going down the count, so Wedge just explaining what needs to happen next.
You see the very imposing, lanky figure of Kelvin Roorda, and it's interesting to see will he be drawn back to protect the dump pass to Too Good, opening up that side shot to Elliott. Oh, instead it's just a dish from the left hand to Snow, and there's the sweeping pass all the way across to Elliott. And another hammer. That man loves them. We love to see him throw them. As Snow hits it to the other sideline. Becker's there. Wastes no time getting it back to Too Good. Elliott tries to get free and Too Good just serves it up to him. Delectable. Can't quite get it to Snow. And Snow and Roorda having a bit of a battle down there in the end zone.
It's a good matchup between those two players. See the height of both of them really commanding this field right now.
So Elliott right in front of the end zone. Goes for the inside flick to Becker, but it's just too far ahead. Tries to force it.
A very unfortunate error there as well. Becker wide open on that cut. Just needs to be a more precise throw if you're going to go for that inside flick break.
Gave it the wrong edge in the outside in trail. Just took it away. So now here they come with an immediate deep shot. All the way down the field. Van Duzer! Van Dam! That's one hell of a grab. And he calls a timeout immediately, perhaps to go get a rest, because you gotta think that one took something out of him.
And you can see Guelph absolutely amped up from that play. A huge grab. Noah Van Duzer looked like he was floating for a minute in the air as he extended to bring that down.
Yeah, how about the power of flight? That do anything for you? It's levitation, Holmes. Excellent stuff by Van Duzer. It honestly looked like it was going to go over his head because he jumped too early and then he went, no, I'm just going to momentarily forget. Because gravity is, we need to keep this in mind, gravity is technically a theory. I mean, at the end of the day. So that time he was able to disprove it.
Absolutely, and I like that timeout call as well. He stood up, he looked straight to the end zone for one stall, didn't have the immediate option, calls the timeout, and they, knowing that they're in the middle of the field on the doorstep to really break down this Dal team by going on a 4-point lead here.
This is a huge moment in the game. Guelph really looking like championship caliber side right now.
They can continue this kind of play, those big plays and momentum and smart decisions as well. There is no doubt in my mind we'll be seeing them in the later stages of the bracket play tomorrow.
So let's see how Dalhousie set up on the defensive end. They're in a lot of pressure right now. Perhaps the one thing they can take some solace in is Van Duzer, not the strongest thrower. Has a backhand break. Has a flick one to an extent. But my advice would be stay honest if you're Dalhousie. Stay honest and just be a little bit physical. Armstrong tries to get free. Too Good shuts him down. Too Good continues to shut him down, but they get it off eventually. That is a fantastic little dish. There's now Armstrong on the end zone, looking for Van Duzer. But that's fantastic defense. But again, they get it off right at the death. And that's collected by Luke Foster for an emphatic and what you have to say is influential score.
Absolutely, up 4 points at 10-6 now. Luke Foster, you could hear him from here yelling at Armstrong that he was open on that side as well. Credit to both Armstrong and Van Duzer. They got stuck in some sticky situations there and didn't force the throw until it was a late stall count. Of course, Foster wide open in that situation, so very good patience that we haven't really seen from that D-line in the earlier parts of this game.
That's an excellent point. The patience shown by critically D-line players, because Campbell Armstrong, D-line, as well as Noah Van Duzer, D-line. They didn't rely on stronger players to come in and do that. That is an excellent little bit of play from them. I believe it was Armstrong who threw the huck to Van Duzer as well. So lovely little play from Guelph, starting to show it on all sides, and you can see Dalhousie just taking a moment to try and collect themselves. They don't want to let this game run away from them. They do have time. They just need to take a breath. And there was excellent dump defense by Cameron, as well as by Too Good right there on the end zone line, but in the end wasn't quite enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dal just needing to regroup here and stop some of the momentum that Guelph has really created for themselves. Guelph looking very unstoppable right now, and after a huge defensive point like that, Dal has to answer back, and they need to do it in a good fashion here. They need to stay clean and consistent on their offense to get their D-line back on the field.
Let's see if they can do it. It's that same D-line that has been guiding them through this tournament so far. Very much led by Elliott, Too Good, and Snow.
And there's still 30 minutes remaining in this one as well, so there is plenty of time. We've seen lots of quick points, the weather not playing as much of an effect on these points as it did yesterday, so definitely more than enough time to get themselves back and into the conversation here.
Let's see how they do it. When their tails are up, Guelph are, for my money, probably the best tournament, probably the best team here. They probably have the highest ceiling.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see from the other pool. Of course, the University of Queens, a very good team as well, and have beaten Guelph this season at the Eastern Championship. So we've got a few teams. It'll be interesting to see how they continue throughout the course of the weekend. But of course, with every team making quarterfinals, you never really know what can happen tomorrow.
Right now, they are all battling for seeding. You can see just off in the distance, Waterloo currently locking horns with Toronto in the other game in this group. Both of those teams lost their opening exchanges to the two teams currently standing in front of you. Waterloo handled quite convincingly by Guelph, and Dalhousie just about able to beat the reigning champions on Universe Point. So they're definitely a talented squad as they give it back to Wedge for a slight loss of yards. And that is a lengthy leg from Fraser just going up. A big body right at the front of that zone. And there's Wedge using the space brilliantly, as she so frequently does. Elliott can't get free down the line for her. Too Good tries to create a bit of space, and there's the hand block from Fraser. Go gadget arms extending out and slapping that one away.
And Wedge running out of options in there as well. Didn't have any other choice but to try to get that one to Too Good.
And an immediate deep shot. They're trying to pay back Fraser, but Too Good eponymous on that play. Coming across. Excellent read. Excellent defensive play.
The Guelph sideline there not telling their teammate Fraser that he had any defensive pressure on his back there. He thought he had that with tons of time.
So Elliott gets it to Snow, who is deep in his own end zone right now. And you see Keenan is just patrolling, and he's quite happy to leave an awful lot of space between him and Trader. Downfield, and there's a bit of a miscommunication. You can see Chambers was the one who was able to come in and get the disc, but it seems like something's happened to Too Good, and that is a big worry for the Dalhousie side. He gets up gingerly. Curious to see who they bring on. It appears to be Brian Tan. That's another rookie for the Dalhousie side. Rookie in so much as he's a freshman. So Chambers, patient. Becker comes to him. Keenan. Nice little switch by the dump markers. See how well they know each other, but that's a great throw. Line towed, and he is in. for the score.
It's a case there. Calvin Roorda actually towing the wrong line, had another yard of space to go, but no harm in making sure he's safe and in that end zone. Guelph, momentum all on their side now. Cooper Toogood, unfortunately, coming off the field there. Hopefully he's okay. That is a big loss. Dalhousie's going to need him going forward in this tournament too.
And you can see Fraser as well as Roorda. So that's 65, Fraser, and Roorda is 17. Huge figures that Guelph delight in putting into their cup. And they're just oppressive. They're like a canopy, blocking the light from a Dalhousie side, trying to find cracks into it.
Yeah, I think it's been really effective for them to move those bigger bodies onto the mark as well, blocking the vision upfield and getting those big arms in the way, ready for those hand blocks, those foot blocks every single time. They just look absolutely amped up and unstoppable right now.
So that's another break, 11-6. Bearing in mind that the game was at one point tied at 5s. It's just how impressive Guelph are in the second half. Even in the latter half of the first half. Really starting to separate themselves from Dalhousie. But this is not an elimination game, unlike all of the games that we streamed yesterday in the final regional qualification exchanges, as that one goes out of bounds. Again, you really have to be curious. Van Duzer has had, I think, one pull inbounds, and almost every single other one's been a brick.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You see him smiling with his teammates there. He knows he's got to work on that for the next games. At this point, they're up by 5 points. Not too worried about it, it looks like, but definitely need to find a way to get used to the field, the wind. You'd think more than halfway through the second game, that adjustment would have already been made.
So now, Snow. They're talking about marching it up to where it went out of bounds from, as opposed to taking it as a brick. That's a little bit of a change from the rules I'm more accustomed to, where they'd have to take it on the sideline from where it went out. Punish them a little bit more. I gotta say, I like that. Cameron doesn't go for the pop into the middle, instead takes a big, long swing around. Schrader, he has Snow behind him. No, that wasn't Schrader, that was Parkin. And they swing it across. A nice fake by Cameron, moving Buckley all the way out of his way. Back into the middle, Snow. But Dalhousie really struggling to make any penetration downfield. The absence of Elliott noticeable, in so much as there's not a whole lot of hammers being thrown. Lovely throw by Snow, straight through to the middle and waiting for it. Macaulay pops it out to the sideline. Just about able to get it there. So Parkin gives it back into the middle. Cameron, as Guelph have switched to match defense. DeBay tries to get it to Cameron. Cameron shaking his shoulders but can't get free. Eventually able to get it to Macaulay. Macaulay has Cameron in front of him, gives it to him. And Cameron is really taking charge of this offensive point. Without Toogood and Elliott, you have to wonder where that offensive efficiency is going to come from. It seems like it's going to be Cameron and Snow for the most part. DeBay can't get free. Macaulay shut down as well, but eventually Cameron's able to get there. And he pops it out to Snow. Wonderful composure by Dalhousie to get that offensive hold.
Dal looking a little bit stagnant at the start of that point. They had some trouble getting it out and around the cup, getting it moving upfield, but as soon as they did, they were off to the races, forced Guelph to transition to that match defense, and then staying patient right at the end zone. A good, clean offensive hold here from Dal. Again, still looking for their first break of the game.
Something else as well. Toogood obviously went down injured on the previous point, so that's why he wasn't playing it. Elliott didn't play that point either, neither did Wedge. And those are three of the best throwers that Dalhousie have. You could see Cameron had to come back and take a much more pivotal role in the offense that they ran on that point, and I just wonder how sustainable that is when you're losing your big cannons.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe just trying to get a few other people some O-line experience, get them involved in those situations. They're down 4 points right now still with about 20 minutes left to go, so maybe just trying to change up the system, see if they can build some new chemistry. They obviously will make quarters still tomorrow morning, and they have one win to their name already in the day one play, facing off against Waterloo next. Those two teams probably pretty evenly matched as well, so maybe just trying to build something different for their next games.
That's one of the advantages you have in the slightly more relaxed Saturday of Div 1, where the games matter in so much as what you can get out of them, less so than results. As that one pins G all the way back at the end of the end zone, he gets it to Armstrong. That's one of the better pulls we've seen so far today. Across the sideline, Bolin Moss being marked by Tebey, and there's a fantastic run through D by the speedy McDonald. Gets it off, pops it to Turner, and now Turner standing in front of the end zone, complaining a little bit about Keenan encroaching somewhat on his personal space. Eventually he's able to get it back. Nice little fake by Tan. As Tan doesn't go for the around, goes instead for a scoober directly into the ground in front of his intended receiver, Luke Parkin.
And it looks like an uncontested stall down where Tan was as well. Just couldn't find a way to get that off any earlier on that point, which is, I think, exactly why the scoober went straight into the ground. He knew it was too late for anything else.
So unfortunate as once again Dalhousie squander an opportunity to claw their way back into this game. Armstrong picks it up immediately and Keenan goes deep. And they have been executing that all game long, constantly trying to target whoever is being marked by Turner on a deep shot, should the opportunity present itself. And there's the quick pop, magnificent end zone cutting by Aiden Hayter, I believe for his third score of the game.
Yeah, Hayter was following that, tracking Keenan's cut the entire way, and was immediately ready as soon as Keenan walked it back out of the end zone, making that cut to the near corner, an easy dish in. And like you said before, Dalhousie squandering an opportunity, having it 10 yards from the end zone, and unfortunate for McDonald, who's been amazing on defense for this team, that his team can't convert for the turns he's managing to get them.
It's really a problem for them, but again, you have to really commend Guelph. Their O-line defense is fantastic.
Yeah, Guelph very much always fighting for the disc, ready to get it back at any moment. Christopher Chambers on the mark there, was wrapping and ready for any throw that Tan was going to be putting up, was so active the entire time, so not surprised to see that one resulting in a stall down call as well.
So now, Dalhousie with a more familiar offensive line, all the regulars right back out there. Too good. Wedge. And yes, I believe we can just about make out Elliot. He's taken off his hat, so it'll take me slightly longer to recognize him. Please bear that in mind in case anybody's listening and they're going to be on a stream later on. If you change your appearance halfway through the game, it will become very difficult to recognize you. That's too good. Waits under that one. Elliot in the middle of the pitch. And it's a match. You can hear the call coming out of Wedge. A nice throw and the deep shot slightly available, but Cameron decides against it. He's got a huge under available to him and he gets it to Schrader. And Schrader gives it straight back to Cameron. Becker makes a cut to the end zone. There's going to be a little bit of a battle. Becker's got time. But the defensive pressure coming forward from Lucas Caris is enough to dissuade him, and you can see the sideline he's got going for him. Mum Vida, Dad Jorgis, brother Linus and his friend Gigas Nausidas, all coming along to cheer on their man. Showing off for them there's Armstrong. Gets a lovely arcing pass all the way around. Frazier gets it back into the middle, and Armstrong keeps the movement going. No hesitation. No rest. Every other throw seems to be the call coming from the sideline, and Armstrong more than happy to acquiesce. Frazier. Armstrong. This is nice holding play by the downfield defenders, and Schrader screams through for the block. Excellent effort by Dalhousie to earn that one back.
And you could see Foster had just turned his body slightly, thinking that that throw wasn't coming up to him anymore. Campbell a little bit late to see the open cut, and Dal able to read it perfectly for the block.
So, Elliott sends that one to Too Good, goes slightly over his head. Too Good rescues it in the end. A little bit of physical contact as Carice tried to come across and get a poach block.
That's the second time that Too Good has hit the ground pretty hard, so hopefully he's okay. He does look all right as he's bouncing up. You see, the Guelph player did immediately apologize for the contact coming in, I think a little bit late on that one after Too Good had already made the catch.
I feel like that's a legitimate call for a dangerous play. But such things happen, especially when you're as young and eager as Carice is. An excellent young player. And of course, incredibly spirited. As soon as it had happened, you saw him turn around and apologize to Too Good. Too Good, understandably, he's taken a few knocks in this game, so once you've taken 1 or 2 hits and you take a third, at that point your frustration is understandable. And you just take some time to walk it off. So, excellent response on the defensive end. Huge play by Schrader. Able to punch it in, just about. So now Dalhousie continue their search for a break. So you think, right now, after the limited amount of Ultimate that we've seen, really Queens and Guelph probably the 2 most impressive sides so far?
It's hard to picture any other final at this point for the Open Division. That game at the Canadian Eastern Championship a few weeks ago was, I believe, 9-7 for Queens, and their O-line was unbroken in that one. So Guelph, I'm sure, will have been working on their defensive unit, gearing up for that game. But there's some great teams here as well. We haven't really seen much of the University of Manitoba yet. We'll be seeing them match up against Queens in the next round here on the live stream field at 1:15. So we'll get a look to see how they're doing. McGill lost earlier today to Queens 59. McGill, the top team out of Quebec, so not quite in the conversation in that game, unfortunately. So hard to imagine Guelph and Queens not running their way towards that final tomorrow, but we'll have to wait and see.
So here comes Armstrong. And a beautiful inside flick break. So delicate. You could have placed a Ming vase on top of it. Gets it back. Van Duzer. Armstrong. And immediately gives it back to Van Duzer. I love that keep going ethos of the handling core of Guelph and Armstrong. Just swinging it from side to side, acting as that release valve. So difficult to contain. So much effort by Casper McCauley. And then that one again. Tan comes across. You're going to have to say that looked like a foul. He seemed to get a lot of G's hand before he got the disc, and he agrees. Tried to jump the lane.
I do think that was a foul, but I do think that G was going to land out of bounds on the catch. That disc was sailing out, and both of them were quite far off the field by the time the call was actually made.
So perhaps Tan a bit too eager. There's now G with possession and the middle of the pitch, and Armstrong immediately available in front of him. McCauley doing everything he can to contain the incredibly virile Armstrong. That's Chambers. Armstrong, and there's the shot to the break side. Beautiful end zone efficiency, and Van Duzer picks up the score.
So very interesting as well to see Noah Van Duzer transitioning over to this offensive unit. We haven't really seen him at all on the O-line here for Guelph, so maybe Guelph preparing a little bit of chemistry themselves. I think he is a player that would cross over in a power line situation with those top players. So interesting to see him working here in the handling positions with Armstrong and Chambers there, but did a great job on this one.
Something I love about Van Duzer is his versatility. He is a handler, primarily D-line, but as we've seen already, boy can he go deep. And one of my favorite things to see is a handler just dump it off and burn deep straight away. So excellent, excellent player. Very exciting to see where he can go from here. And you've got to think, if they're going to be able to take this championship, it's the likes of Van Duzer who are going to have to be able to step up and really impress themselves. The likes of Fraser, as well as, I think, Calvin Roorda. These kind of, not the ones you'd be so familiar with, not the ones like the Armstrongs who are used to leading them, Chambers, Keenan. It's about those 4 through 10 on the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to have to step up into those roles that they've been given. I think gearing themselves up to do that, getting lots of touches, lots of even play time right now on the disc. So we'll see them in tighter situations tomorrow, and that's when we'll get a chance to see if they can rise to the occasion.
Well, right now, they're certainly soaring. As that disc is a much better pull. Armstrong this time. Too good. He has wedge completely free on the break side. Goes to Elliott. Striking up into the middle of the cup. A nice break through to Too Good again. And a big arcing backhand to Cameron, but he really rushed it. almost rescued off the ground by Schrader, but in the end he couldn't get there in time. A little bit of concern for Luke Foster, who is the deep defender. It seemed like Too Good just forced that one, like he wasn't too interested in keeping playing. Didn't put that much focus, I guess. And there's a huge shot straight to the end zone. Right underneath it, and well taken in by Luke Foster. Schrader couldn't do anything about that one.
Luke Foster read that one the whole way, kept his eyes glued to that disc as it sailed towards his hands. Aiden Hayter, a nice shot to the end zone, knows his receiver. Guelph, so much athleticism displayed today as well, and that is definitely going to be something that will carry them through to the later stages, to be able to come down with floatier discs like that in some situations could end up being more 50-50. Right now, they're making it look like it's always going to be theirs.
It really does, and that was something I remember talking to Luke Martelli about before the game. Against Toronto, they didn't really use a lot of deep shots. The Dalhousie coach, Martelli, didn't use a lot of deep shots. They really like to grind out the unders. They really like that quick give-go kind of play. And that's the kind of play I like. So I was talking to him, just saying, like, yeah, it's kind of what I like. We have a couple of deep shots. We'd like to use them more. We haven't really seen too much in the way of deep shots. The main thing is their deep defense isn't very good. And that's something that you tend to see in teams that don't have a deep offense. They're not used to playing against it, and they can get exploited in those kind of situations. So, 14-8. I thought it started off as a very close game. It was 5-5, bear in mind. But Guelph, so impressive.
I think Guelph's adjustment right in the first half when they moved Connor Armstrong over to that D-line, got those breaks leading to half. Since then, they have shown no sign of faltering at all, just a lot of confidence, and I think it showed to Dal a little bit of nerves set in when that happened.
It was a good throw from Snow, and it just bounces out of the hands of Cameron. You can see a little bit of frustration on his face. He knows he should have had that one. Then we see Hayter, the man who threw that lovely huck last time. The youngest Armstrong as well. Chambers, near the sideline. Nothing really getting free in the open side. Tries to go for the deep. He was talking to Bolan Moss, trying to get him to go. But nobody was really expecting that throw.
Yeah, Bolan Moss wasn't quite ready. He'd been clearing on that cut, but hadn't actually been striking deep. Chambers ran out of options.
So Snow picking it up. Normally he starts as kind of an initiation cutter. Becker taking on that role. Now looking to send it deep to Cameron. Cameron is being used as a deep target time and time again. Cameron has really been we're kind of running out of options. What do we do? Let's just see if Cameron can fix it for us.
Yeah, I think between Cameron and Snow, that is something that they have relied on in some of those situations. Get it to their two bigger guys to try to get themselves out of some stickier situations, and they're going to have to find a way to not rely on them as heavily and maybe find some other reset options rather than just putting it up high to those two players.
So, Chambers. This time Hayter's the one who goes deep, but Chambers decides against it. Bolan Moss can't get enough separation to satisfy the handlers. That one is beautiful, though. It was a very well disguised cut. Goes under, but then sweeps up and collects it back through the middle. Excellent stuff by Bolan Moss. Plays it down the line. Armstrong has the option for an expansive throw, decides against it, goes with the easy one, waiting for options to arrive. Van Duzer might have taken slightly too long. Brilliant deep cut by Bolan Moss as he swept under on the open side, then turns and goes deep for a break side hook to the middle of the pitch. It was really well created. And Armstrong recognizing the position he's in, and with clarity and composure that far outweighs his limited time on this earth, calls the timeout.
To go with that cut from Bolan Moss there as well, the vision that Van Duzer had to see that was being created on the far side of the field was excellent too. He put up that inside-out flick huck through quite a bit of traffic too, so had the confidence to put that throw up, and it's good to see that from Van Duzer, whose throws haven't been as consistent today in this game. To put up a great huck like that is definitely something good and something that Guelph is going to want to use more going forward, I think.
So if you just go through Guelph very briefly, they have the established ADL stars, such as Aiden Hayter. And he plays for the Outlaws. A couple more Outlaw players as well as their coach. O'Donnell plays for the Outlaws. They also have Kinley Gee, Patrick Keenan. So they're well established. As well, of course, Connor Armstrong, who plays with Toronto Rush. So it is going to be about the likes of Hayter being able to come out of his comfort zone and throw a couple more of those expansive throws, but then the people are going to be getting on the end of it. Like Bolan Moss, who's been gone for 2 years, is coming back. That's the exact kind of contribution you want to see him be able to make.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see them use the speed of players like Chris Kimmerer as well, get him involved, maybe striking deep too. We saw him a lot more in the first half. Haven't really said his name in the second one, so I'd like to see them maybe try to use him, put him in some of those initiating positions.
So now, front corner of the end zone, game on the line, and your young handler picks it up. A telling moment for Guelph's championship hopes. What a throw to Bolan Moss, and that's why they are a legitimate threat to every other team at this tournament.
That, I think, actually was a set play there as well. Just made the mark move with a little fake, and then Campbell, wide open shot, inside out flick. Bolan Moss didn't even have to move to get that, and that makes it 15-8. Guelph take it very commandingly in the second half here.
That's a hell of a play. What we're going to do is we're going to immediately look back to it, because I was wondering why the dump, who was, I believe, Chambers, set up directly behind him. I was like, that's a weird place to set up for a dump in that situation. He turns to him immediately, and you're like, really? That's your play? And then, of course, the mark comes with it. Genius. And again, showing off how well drilled they are. Fantastic set play. Very well executed. So, that ends our first game. As we said, we have Manitoba coming up against Queens, another championship contender. And that will be happening when, Rebecca?
We'll be back here at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time. See a showdown between those two teams. They've played each other a few times in universities over the year, but the most notably back in 2014, Manitoba beat them in the championship game for the gold medal. So a rematch of that final game quite a few years ago, so some different rosters on those two teams, but definitely going to be a good one.
In college years, much like dog years, go by much quicker than any of the other ones we tend to experience. Well, kids, thank you for joining us here in this beautiful morning. We'll be back in the afternoon. Same Ultimate channel, same Ultimate time, 1:15. I've been Lorca Murray, joined by Rebecca Thompson, and we will see you then.